Aging is often treated as a simple march of years, but the body does not own a calendar. It responds to our messages. Every cell is listening, every tissue interpreting signals that say whether it should grow, repair, conserve, or slowly shut things down. When those signals weaken, the body does not argue. It adapts downward. This is why two people of the same age can live in completely different biological realities. One moves with ease, reacts quickly, and heals well. The other feels fragile, tired, and cautious. Time did not create that gap. Communication did. From a scientific point of view, the human body is a feedback system. Muscles speak to bones through mechanical load. Bones respond by staying dense. Muscles speak to the brain through tension and coordination. The brain responds by maintaining neural pathways. Even the immune system listens to movement, adjusting inflammation levels based on how often tissues are stressed and repaired. When movement becomes too gentle or too repetitive, the conversation becomes quiet. The body assumes the environment no longer demands strength, balance, or quick response, so it reallocates energy away from those systems. This is where aging quietly accelerates. Not because cells suddenly fail, but because the instructions they receive no longer justify investment. Muscle fibers shrink when they are not challenged. Bone cells reduce rebuilding when impact disappears. Neural circuits weaken when balance is never questioned. Metabolic processes slow when large muscles are no longer activated. These are not breakdowns. They are logical decisions made by a body trying to be efficient. Walking, especially at a comfortable pace, is a signal of safety and maintenance. It tells the body that survival requires endurance, but not strength, awareness, but not precision. For younger bodies, that may be enough. But as we age, the threshold for meaningful signals rises. The body needs clear instructions to hold onto capability. Without them, it gradually sheds functions that no longer seem necessary, much like a city closing roads that no one uses. What we call aging is often this gradual silence. Fewer demands placed on the system lead to fewer resources allocated to resilience. Reaction time slows because it is no longer requested. Strength fades because it is no longer required. Balance weakens because the brain is no longer asked to solve instability. Over time, these losses compound, not as failures, but as adaptations to a quieter life. The hopeful truth is that signals can be restored. The body does not hold grudges. When challenged appropriately, it responds even decades later. Muscles remember how to grow. Bones remember how to reinforce. The brain remembers how to sharpen. Aging is not a locked door. It is a dimmed conversation. And movement, when designed to speak clearly, can turn the volume back up, reminding the body that it still lives in a world that requires strength, awareness, and presence-resistance-based movements send a very different message to the body than steady, repetitive motion. When muscles are asked to work against gravity or external load, they do not simply contract and relax. They enter a state of negotiation with the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the metabolic machinery of the body. This negotiation determines how strong, resilient, and responsive the body remains over time. Walking, even when done daily, rarely triggers this deeper conversation because it relies on familiar patterns and a limited range of muscular demand. From a biological perspective, large muscles are not just engines of movement. They are endocrine organs. When they contract under resistance, they release signaling molecules that influence blood sugar control, inflammation, and brain health. These signals improve how cells respond to insulin, reducing the strain on the pancreas and lowering the risk of metabolic decline. Even short bouts of resistance movement can create metabolic changes that last for hours, while long periods of low-intensity activity may leave these systems largely untouched. Muscle fibers themselves tell an important story. The body maintains different types of fibers for different purposes, some built for endurance, others for power and stability. Walking primarily uses slow, endurance-oriented fibers. Resistance movements recruit a broader spectrum, including fibers that are essential for preventing falls, catching the body during sudden movements, and performing everyday tasks like standing from a chair. When these fibers are not regularly activated, the body begins to dismantle them. This loss is often mistaken as inevitable aging, when it is actually a response to underuse. The skeletal system listens closely to muscular effort. Bones do not strengthen in response to distance traveled, but to force absorbed. Resistance movements apply meaningful load through joints and bones, stimulating cells responsible for maintenance and repair. This process helps preserve density and structural integrity. Without it, bones quietly thin, increasing fracture risk even in people who appear active. Walking alone, unless done with significant intensity or variation, does not provide sufficient stimulus to sustain this process over time. There is also a neurological dimension. Resistance training requires focus, coordination, and controlled effort. The brain must recruit motor units efficiently, refine movement patterns, and adapt to increasing challenge. This strengthens neural connections between the brain and muscles, improving reaction time and movement confidence. Walking, while beneficial for circulation and mood, places minimal demand on these adaptive pathways once it becomes habitual. What makes resistance movements especially powerful is efficiency. A few minutes of intentional load can stimulate systems that hours of walking may not reach. The body responds not to duration, but to challenge. When resistance is present, the message is unmistakable. Strength is required. Capability matters. Survival still depends on the ability to generate force. And when the body receives that message regularly, it responds by staying prepared, adaptable, and biologically younger than its years. Balance is often treated as a minor physical skill, something we only notice when it begins to fail. In reality, balance is one of the most complex and revealing functions of the human body. It is a continuous conversation between the inner ear, the eyes, the joints, the muscles, and the brain. Every moment of stability is an active process, not a passive state. When balance is challenged, the brain is forced to interpret information, predict outcomes, and make rapid adjustments. This constant decision-making keeps neural networks alive and responsive. As people age, balance is usually the first system to quietly decline. Not because the body is incapable, but because it is rarely asked to practice uncertainty. Walking on flat, predictable surfaces allows the brain to operate on autopilot. The sensory information becomes familiar, requiring minimal interpretation. Over time, the brain reduces its investment in these pathways, prioritizing efficiency over readiness. This is how balance erodes without injury or illness, simply through lack of meaningful demand. From a neurological perspective, balance training is brain training. When the body is placed in unstable positions, the nervous system must increase communication speed and accuracy. The cerebellum, a region responsible for coordination and timing, becomes highly active. Sensory receptors in the feet, ankles, hips, and spine send rapid feedback to the brain, forcing it to refine motor responses. This process strengthens neural connections that support not only physical stability, but cognitive clarity and reaction time. There is also an emotional dimension to balance. Fear of falling subtly alters how people move, making them stiff and cautious. This tension further reduces sensory input and adaptability, creating a cycle of instability. Balance exercises gently interrupt this loop. They rebuild trust between the mind and the body. As confidence grows, movement becomes more fluid, breathing improves, and the nervous system shifts out of chronic alertness into controlled readiness. Research consistently links balance ability with longevity and independence. Falls are one of the leading causes of injury-related decline in later life. But the deeper issue is not the fall itself. It is the loss of confidence that often follows. When people no longer trust their balance, they restrict movement. Restricted movement accelerates muscle loss, bone weakening, and cognitive slowing. Balance training acts as a protective thread, holding multiple systems together. Unlike walking, which reinforces predictable patterns, Balance challenges introduce variability. The brain thrives on variability. It keeps neural maps detailed and flexible. Each small wobble becomes information, each correction a lesson. Over time, the body becomes better at handling unexpected situations, stepping on uneven ground, turning quickly, or catching itself during a slip. Balance, in this sense, is not about standing still. It is about staying adaptable in a changing environment. When the brain is regularly invited to solve these physical puzzles, it stays engaged with the body. This engagement preserves not just stability, but awareness. And awareness is one of the quiet foundations of vitality, allowing the body to move through the world with presence rather than fear. The upper body is often overlooked in everyday movement, yet plays a central role in how the body organizes itself in space. The shoulders, arms, and upper spine are not isolated parts. They form a structural bridge between posture, breathing, and emotional state. When these areas weaken, the body subtly collapses forward. The chest narrows, the neck strains, and breathing becomes shallow. This change is so gradual that many people accept it as normal aging, unaware that it is largely a response to underuse rather than decline. From a physiological standpoint, the muscles of the upper body assist in every breath. When the spine is upright and the rib cage can expand freely, the lungs fill more completely. Oxygen delivery improves, and the heart works more efficiently. Weakness in the upper back and shoulders restricts this expansion, increasing the effort required for simple activities. Walking may strengthen the legs and support circulation, but it does little to restore the structural openness needed for efficient breathing. Upper body strength is also deeply tied to daily independence. Simple tasks like carrying groceries, lifting a child, pushing a door, or rising from the floor rely on coordinated pushing and pulling. When these movements are not practiced, the nervous system loses confidence in them. The body begins to compensate, often overloading the lower back or knees. This compensation creates discomfort and further reduces activity, reinforcing the belief that the body is fragile. There's a neurological component as well. The arms have a large representation in the brain, closely linked to coordination and spatial awareness. Controlled upper body movements stimulate these brain regions, improving motor planning and body awareness. This has a stabilizing effect on posture and gait, making all movement feel more secure. Walking alone does not activate this system to the same degree, especially once it becomes habitual. Upper body strength also influences circulation. Muscle contractions in the arms assist venous return, helping blood flow back to the heart. This reduces cardiovascular strain during daily tasks and supports overall endurance. When upper body muscles are weak, even modest exertion can feel exhausting, not because the heart is failing, but because the muscular support system is underdeveloped. Beyond mechanics, posture has psychological weight. An open chest and stable shoulders send feedback to the nervous system associated with calm and confidence. A collapsed posture reinforces stress signals, increasing tension and fatigue. Strengthening the upper body gradually shifts this internal dialogue. Movement becomes easier, breathing deeper, and the body feels more capable of engaging with the world. What makes upper body strength training particularly valuable is its ripple effect. It does not only add muscle, it restores alignment, improves breathing efficiency, enhances coordination, and reduces unnecessary strain elsewhere in the body. When the upper body is strong and responsive, the entire system moves with greater harmony, allowing everyday actions to feel lighter, safer, and more sustainable over time. Health is often measured in numbers, steps taken, calories burned, minutes exercised. Yet the body does not experience life as a set of totals. It experiences life as possibilities. The ability to stand up without hesitation, to turn quickly when called, to reach, carry, and steady oneself without fear. These abilities are not luxuries. They are the quiet foundations of dignity and independence. When movement preserves these options, it supports not just longevity, but the quality of lived experience. From a biological perspective, the body is constantly preparing for the demands it expects to face. If daily movement only asks for repetition and endurance, the body adapts to that narrow expectation. Strength, balance, and coordination are gradually deprioritized, not out of failure, but efficiency. The body chooses what to keep based on what it believes will be needed. Intentional movement broadens that expectation. It tells the body that life still requires adaptability, control, and strength in unpredictable moments. This is why movement that combines multiple demands is so powerful. When muscles are challenged, balance is negotiated, and coordination is required at the same time, the nervous system stays alert and integrated. The brain must constantly update its map of the body in space. This integration preserves reaction time and decision-making under physical stress. It also reduces the risk of injury because the body becomes skilled at responding rather than rigidly repeating familiar patterns. Preserving options also means reducing fear. Many people limit their lives not because they lack desire, but because they lack confidence in their bodies. Fear of falling, of pain, of not being able to recover quietly shapes behavior. Intentional movement gently rebuilds trust. Each successful challenge reinforces the message that the body is capable. This confidence encourages exploration, social engagement, and continued activity, creating a positive feedback loop that supports both physical and mental health. There's a metabolic dimension to this as well. Movements that demand strength and control improve how the body manages energy. Blood sugar regulation becomes more stable. Inflammation decreases. Fatigue lessens. These changes make daily life feel more manageable, increasing the likelihood that a person will stay active. Health, in this sense, is self-reinforcing when the right signals are present. Perhaps most importantly, intentional movement honors the body as a partner rather than a tool. It recognizes that health is not about pushing harder, but about communicating more clearly. When movement respects how the body learns and adapts, it becomes sustainable. It fits into life rather than competing with it. Longevity without capability can become a narrowing experience. More years, fewer options. But when movement is chosen with intention, it protects the ability to choose how those years are lived. The body remains an ally, responsive and trustworthy, able to meet the world with curiosity rather than caution. And this preservation of choice may be one of the most meaningful forms of health a person can cultivate.